The other day I said, I want to get ranked position 1 organically for all these top cities. And it went and created probably 50 different landing pages for these top cities and general contractor.
Welcome back to Modern Craftsman Podcast. Today we have Morgan Molitor on, who is, her and her husband Jamie run construction to style. She also is one of the founding members of our Contractor Coalition Summit. And Morgan has built a reputation, not just through branding and marketing, but leadership, professionalism, and she's constantly evolving how her business operates. Somebody who we respect deeply, not only for what she's built professionally, but the way that she inspires us, other people around her, to become better versions of themselves, both professionally and personally. So we recently just had our Contractor Coalition Summit in Denver, and there were a lot of conversations around AI, construction software, systems, workflow, and how all of these tools can actually help us contractors and builders run better businesses. So today we have Morgan on, and we're going to dive into everything from construction management software, AI platforms, streamlining the communication within your business, creating systems, bots, agents, all the things that I know nothing about. And if you are a contractor, how you can be using AI and these softwares to integrate into your business to make sure that you remain successful. So without further ado, Morgan and Nick and myself are going to be digging into some AI conversation.
We're going to breeze through this high level. I am curious, you guys listening, if you want us to go deeper on specific topics. So send us a DM on Instagram or comment on one of the AI reels because there's a lot to talk about here, and we want to start by having a conversation about what the potential abilities are. But if there's specific topics you want us to dig into around AI, let us know.
Consider this my DM right now, but I definitely want to, and I think it would be a great conversation just to get her back on and dig into how she's using AI and systems to create content, blog posts, schedule.
I think we do literally a topic.
Yeah, one thing, but let's do a live walkthrough of how we're doing this, because it can be very overwhelming, but I also think very valuable even to myself.
This podcast is brought to you by Andersen Windows. We're really excited to officially welcome back Andersen Windows as a partner of the Modern Craftsman podcast. The partnership is something that we're genuinely proud of because it goes far beyond a traditional sponsorship. Over the next year, we're going to be working with Andersen to create custom content featuring builders, architects who actually use their products every day, not just in client projects, but often in their own homes as well. We'll also be hosting live workshops with architects, product specialists, and builders to have real conversations around design, performance, detailing, and how products integrate into an overall success of a project. And beyond the technical side, we're excited to dive deeper into conversations around leadership, business, creativity, and what it really means to build thoughtful, intentional work in today's industry. One of the reasons extending this partnership felt like such a natural move is because Andersen has such a long-standing reputation with the building industry, and they continue to invest into education, innovation, and the professionals actually out there doing the work every day. We're excited for everything we have planned this year, and we can't wait to share it with all of you.
This podcast is brought to you by Harnish Workwear. So I've realized over the years that workwear can either make your day easier or slowly annoy you for 8-10 hours straight, especially when you're moving between a bunch of different tasks throughout the day like I often have. One thing I liked about Harnish Workwear is that it feels practical. The gear is comfortable, easy to move in, it's not stiff, it holds up well on the job site, whether I'm working in my equipment, I'm doing job site layout, carpentry work, painting, meeting with clients. It's the type of gear that I grab because it simply works. I also appreciate that it looks clean and professional without feeling overly polished or corporate. Definitely something I'm not looking for. Just simple functional workwear built for everyday people actually doing the work every day. Appreciate Harnish for supporting this podcast. Obviously, we were just at CCS in Denver, and you presented on AI as well as other things, but a lot of people were very interested in that. It's something that I'm not super savvy on. I know that Nick's really into it, but a lot of people I find are digging into this more and more today. So I want to help our listeners out by today shedding a little bit of light from your perspective on how you use AI to automate your business, improve your systems, implement all the different softwares that you're using, create content, streamline your communication, and how we can get them started doing this. Because for somebody like me who's not very tech savvy, it can be extremely overwhelming. Where to start, signing up, registering for all these different softwares and programs, where it's like, all right, how do I just get started? At a very high level, what do you think are a few just AI platforms that would be very helpful for somebody in our business?
Okay, high level for AI. I mean, no matter what, I always say people usually start with chat, but also there's Claude, there's Perplexity, there's a ton of AI chats that I think that anyone should start with, because more and more tools that we're using within construction, whether it comes to admin or processes or financials or just business management side or project management side, now they're all integrating AI, and I think that can be very overwhelming. But if you start just by using it in your day-to-day to chat with, and also in just everyday life, I think that's where you need to start, so you can get a feel for how to use AI, how to talk to AI, how to truly treat it like another human and have conversations with it. So I'd always say start with chat or Claude.
And why do you prefer Claude over chat?
Claude is a little bit more in depth, but also I would say if you haven't used chat at all, it could be maybe too much information. Whereas even when I'm talking to Claude now, like last night I was just talking back and forth with it for some Instagram prompts, but it can be a lot more in depth. And now I know how to peel that back and pull out what I need for a caption. However, if you start with that, you basically have like an essay that you might not necessarily want. And so chat is just a little bit more 101, I guess you'd say. But also with that, I think the biggest miss I see is people will take it too literal. They'll copy and paste it. And now, I can tell right away if someone's using AI without really speaking to it and giving it the right prompts, just by simple things like, the hyphens, or it just really feels robotic.
Yeah.
And so Claude doesn't feel as robotic, but it feels a lot more.
Gives you a lot of feedback.
So
Yes.
you use it too, Nick?
Yeah. One of the comments I made recently, because someone was like, "Oh, should I use Claude or chat?" None of us in this that is probably even listening to podcasts right now is even using AI to its fullest ability. So I think getting trapped in the mindset of like, "Oh, I have to use this because it's better than chat," it is just like the wrong way to go about it, because none of us are using it like to its absolute capacity. Find something that works. And to Morgan's point, if Claude is giving you the information and you feel as though you're getting, that reciprocated back, then use it. Same thing with chat. Like, if you follow all the stuff on social media, it's like everyone switched to Claude, and then literally the next week, everyone's like, "Oh my God, chat just came out with a new model. Let's switch back." It's like, stop.
Yeah.
Like
Chat sometimes annoys me. I get angry at chat.
I mean, Morgan, you probably, you can speak to this, but you've taken the time to set up basically your Claude to respond in a particular way. Not even because I think out of the box it just tends to agree with you and like validate you, but I think that's an important piece where if you're going to use this to get feedback, like one of the things that I did is right from the beginning, I was like, "Hey, here's what my goals are personally and professionally. So every time I ask a question, I want you to relate back to what my overall goals are. And if it's not working towards that, or it undermines that, then I need you to just immediately call that out and like, we're not focusing on this."
But I feel like chat patronizes the hell out of me, where I'm like, yo, just give it to me straight. I don't need you to reaffirm everything that I just asked you. Or like, this is a great direction that we're going. Like, shut up. Just tell me what needs to change.
So you really hate those memes online that are like, oh, you're doing a great job. Like you say you want to take someone out and they're like, oh, that's your feelings are valid.
Yeah, I do not like being patronized. From a construction management software, that's another thing that a lot of our listeners and people in our community are asking, what type of construction software that we're using. And there's a lot of options out there, and we can dig into them. But I think what's more important is how they are able to implement AI or integrate something like Claude into the existing software, or even QuickBooks or something like that. So what type of construction management software are you using, and how does it integrate in with whatever AI or even just have its own AI capabilities within it?
Yeah. So we recently just made the switch to Resio, and the main reason too is because it has AI integrated within it. And we're doing, I know we're not getting too in depth, but we have created a lot of agents. And then with
All right,
agents,
what's an agent?
agents are employees. So they truly do your job. And so you can, and I'd say with all of this, and even when we're talking about the feedback Claude gives you and different other AI platforms, it's training them. So I always say, like, it's just like an employee. You can't tell your employee once or twice how to do something and expect them to go to a job site and nail it out of the park and manage a job and do all the carpentry work and everything like that. Like, you have to train an employee for years before they get to a level that you want them to be at. And you have to think the same way about when you're talking to your bot, whether that's if you're building agents or if you're just chatting with them. Like, you need to continuously have these conversations to train them in the way that you want them to represent your brand, whether it comes to speaking or completely taking over.
Okay,
So,
a bot and an agent are the same thing.
a bot, so a chat bot is what I'm referring to there. So it's just chatting with them.
Okay.
An agent is someone who, it's an employee. So just like a human being, you can set up different agents, so different employees to work for you, not necessarily on a job site, but I'll do a lot of admin or marketing or just process agents that I've set up. So I've only set up 3 agents, but
Are those all done through Claude? Like, are you
yes,
building them through Claude
And
Cowork?
it's based on a
Claude.
specific task.
correct. Yep. So just like an employee, if you want to hire a marketing coordinator, like you set up an agent for a marketing coordinator. You want to hire a CEO, you set up an agent for a CEO. You want to hire a virtual assistant, you set up an agent for a virtual assistant. But all that to be said, so Claude and OpenClaw is what I've used to build out my agents. So all that to be said, going back to the project management software, just all the tools in general that we use within our construction company, I want them to have OpenAI, and to have AI and or AI capabilities where they can speak to one another. And so, we're trying to have as minimal tools as we can, so we don't have, a CRM tool, a marketing tool, a project management tool, a financial tool, a design tool. Like, I want to have one tool.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same as running a job, where ultimately the success of whatever you're doing comes down to communication and how efficient, effective, and accurate that can be. So finding a software or systems that can link into each other and work together to reduce the amount of communication, which essentially reduces errors, streamlines the entire setup.
Yeah. Well, and time is money, right? So it's like if we have multiple, and I'll say too, we're not quite there yet. Like, we're a design build, so we still need more design capabilities, but we've now limited some of our tools that we don't need quite as many. And even the fact that Resio has, like, you can integrate to your contact form. They have a landing page for that. You can automatically put it onto your website to funnel over. They have Mason within their software. So if at any time, if anyone on our team too is trying to figure something out, I'm like, ask Mason. Or they've been really receptive to when we have feedback, we just let them know, and they immediately are figuring out how to implement that and make the changes that we've asked for. So
can we, from a very rudimentary perspective, quickly dig into what your process would look like to set up an agent? Like, hey, I want to, so many people are interested in marketing. We just had somebody ask us today where it's like, I understand how to determine who my ideal client is, what my business needs, but how am I actually executing the market aspect of that? What would that look like if you have something like Claude?
Okay, so, well, without like visuals and trying to keep this a little bit more high level. So in Claude, on the left-hand side, at the very top, there's a chat icon, there's a co-work icon, and then there's a code icon. And so the chat is just like having a conversation and going back and forth. The middle icon, that is the co-work. And so I would say start with co-work, because co-work then, that will actually take over your computer screen and work for you. You also need to download it for your desktop, so you can't use Claude within your browser.
Yeah.
And then I would say use Chrome and do the Chrome extension. So anytime I'm on any browser, I can just hit the Chrome extension. It pops up on my screen and I can say, answer these DMs for me. And it will start answering the DMs. I can say, set up these newsletter campaigns. It will set up newsletter campaigns. I could say, something on our website. The other day I said, I want to get ranked position 1 organically for all these top cities. And it went and created probably 50 different landing pages for these top cities and general contractor. I opened Ahrefs, which is a tool we use for SEO to find keywords to be ranked for. And it automatically opened up, searched Ahrefs for what we should be ranking for. It opened up our Google Analytics. It told me where impressions were dropping, where pages used to be ranked, why they're no longer ranked. It went in live time, updated everything. And now it's giving me weekly reports too, based on these landing pages it created.
When it's working in this mode, can you go and use your computer? Is it like, it just took over my whole computer, I can't touch this thing?
So I don't, because, well, one, I'm like so fascinated by it. So half the time I'm just watching it and I'm like, oh my God.
All the time you could be saving your
completely defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are buying, mini MacBooks or little, computers for their employees so they can keep working. And so a couple of times I've like opened up a new tab, but I've just noticed like it'll glitch out, And so now I've just like, because especially if I'm working on my website, like, we've spent years trying to get it where it is. So I'm like, I don't want to mess anything up. But that's why people buy new computers too, so they can like keep working and then be working on their computer.
I use co-work quite a bit, and I continue to work. Like, I have it on a separate screen. Like, one of the things I use co-work for specifically is I have it every single morning research basically daily prospects for like buying our 45 White Oak project. And so I created a whole prompt. I'm not going to read it, but it basically like it will research people that are in, that could be in a position to buy a house like that. And a lot of them are tied to like IPOs or acquisitions and things, and that are just in space that are probably an ultra high net worth earner. And it will automatically open my Gmail and it drafts 5 emails a day. And I have that actually creating draft emails for like 3 or 4 different things every morning. But it's funny, like I'm working with co-work on a really big project that's, It literally told me estimated work time is going to be 4 weeks.
Is that like straight 24 hours a day?
No, I have it set up where it can't do all so here, let me back up. I actually was working with chat and saying, this is my goal.
I feel like I'm the perfect guest for this podcast. Sorry, Morgan, because I'm literally clueless with all of it. So people are going to be like, all right, he's asking the dumb questions that I'm afraid to ask.
No, but like Tyler, like this is one of the best tips I've ever heard. Cause you're the great example of like, so I don't understand what this is. And Dan Martell on the Open Residency podcast said, then ask chat. Like, don't ask me, ask chat what to do. And so I have this big project I'm trying to work on. It's basically like documenting our whole business. And I've outlined exactly what I want to do. And I communicated this through chat. And after about an hour of just going back and forth, I said, I need you to create the prompt that I can give Cowork to do this work. And it was like, I can do that, but here's what I want to put in place. I want to put in place checks. So every few hours, it stops and says, please review the following information to make sure that we're still on the right path. That way, it doesn't do 4 weeks worth of work. It basically says, like, here's your estimated time. We will require, like, it will require 60 minutes of your time a day, and then we can do the rest. But to your point, like I actually just pulled out I have an extra laptop, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just set this up so it can sit on my desk. And
Humble brag.
It's a 2012, bro. But for your exact reason, Morgan, like I noticed that when it starts doing the more complicated things, it will glitch out or say, or like, hey, it was unable to complete task, and I'm like, at what point? Because do I have to start over?
Okay, so next question. While you're creating these agents, are you trying to group these agents into specific tasks that you can constantly feed them topics that are similar? Or is it for a specific topic where it's like, you're not going to do anything other than this?
I was going to say, so we haven't even got to agents yet. So Cowork is different than agents. So Cowork, you're chatting with it, you're prompting it. Agents,
Cowork is just like working on your computer with you.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's like managing tasks.
So then in Code is where you have to integrate another platform. So that's why it gets a little bit complicated. But in Code, you can, like anything you're kind of lacking in your company, or that we use Sprout Social for all of our social media posting. And someone recently told me, they're like, you can build your own scheduling tool in Code. And I was like, oh my gosh.
And then it goes into Sprout Social.
No, then you're building your own posting platform. You don't even need, because Sprout is a lot of money per month. And so I was like, interesting. But so OpenClaw is what you can, like Nick said, you can say, I want to build an agent. What do I need to do?
And you do this in the code portion of Claude?
Yep. You can do it in Cowork, chat, or Code, because you're going to talk to it and have a conversation. So I'd probably start in chat or Cowork and say, I want to build an agent. And there's a lot of AI tools too that are dedicated just for building your agents. But you can create your own within Claude and Open Claw. And some of these AI tools too, like they're named something, and then when you go to it, they're another name. So I'm just like, a lot of names can be thrown out there. That like the URL will change to a new name, and I'm like, why are they making this more complicated? But as Nick said, they're building so fast, they're probably creating new ones within the old one. But so an agent truly, you'll say to it, like I'm in the middle of right now, like creating my CEO, and my CEO agent will manage my employees. So that way every day I can ask my CEO, like, give me an end of day update. But my one marketing one, like I want that agent. So that agent just creates posts, schedules posts, writes the captions for posts. So it's like, that's truly their job. So you give it a job description, you tell them your expectations, again, treating it just like an employee. I would say a lot of people think which it does save you time, but there is a lot of upfront time, right? Like you don't just open up AI and all of a sudden you have a new employee working for you. Like you need to spend time, just like with an employee, to train it, to get it up to speed on how you want it to work, your expectations. Like you can give it reviews. So it takes time. But even with our team and our employees, like they'll say, like, I don't have time, or they'll get frustrated. And I'm like, you need to spend so much time every day, like learning AI and investing in it and talking to it. You can't just expect it to take over and start doing your job for you within even a week.
What CM platforms do you guys know that have OpenAI built into them?
Rezio, so they have limited capabilities, but they will have, they're working on that right now. But they have AI within it, and then they are able to communicate to a lot of our other platforms. And again, with Claude and Cowork, that can open Rezio, work in it, open our other tools, work in it.
Nick, what do you use?
For construction management?
Yeah.
We're on Procore.
And what does that have?
Truthfully, I don't know the ability with AI.
But you can use it with Claude, like they'll tie to each other.
To my knowledge, no.
Okay.
You have to have some sort of like bridge, which I think like Zapier is something that you could set up where it would like, they call them zaps, but essentially it will do something and pull the information and then send it to where I need it. I actually just made a note of that. I just had an idea we do these weekly emails, and essentially we take all the stuff that happens during the week in the daily logs that in Procore, and then put together a weekly email for our client. But we also take notes from our like Zoom meetings and any emails and just like recap like, hey, here's the progress this week and here's the things that we need. I'm like, man, like you take a few hours and just set that up where it would strip all that. You could create that email go out automatically. I mean, on that, Adaptive is a great example of this. We use them for all of our receipt capture and all of our AP, and now they're basically customizing agents for you. And like Morgan said, like they're basically employees, and they're helping them build them specifically for your business, or no, specifically for your business. But we hopped on a call with them, and Julian in my office, like he is totally.
We can get
board.
rid of him. We don't need him anymore.
I mean, like you could probably get rid of pretty much anyone except
Julian.
for the guys doing the physical work. Like if you really think about it, like they could automate me, and
we're trying to trim the fat here.
But Julian's like, I'm all on board with AI. He's probably he's similar to you, Tyler, where he's like he's not spending enough time with it. So Adaptive, I was like, hey, I want to see some examples of what you guys are doing with the agents. And he said, well, one of the things that we realize is that a lot of these builders and contractors, they struggle to get their subs to submit their invoicing on time. So we actually built an agent that would contact all the subs for them. And it would literally automatically email them. And if they didn't get an email, it would call them.
Dude, you need to do that with like vacuuming too.
Dude, like, so they tested it, and Julian's phone rang, and it was like, hello? And Julian's like, hello? It's like, hey, this is Jessica from NS Builders. I was just wondering if you were going to be submitting the invoice for the Smith job. Yeah, I can get you over that. Okay, do you happen to know what that? And it would just have had a regular conversation.
That's kind of scary.
And the funny thing is like right after, I was like, you're gonna get the people that be like, oh, that's obviously AI, and I'm like, but what? Like, who cares?
Yeah, it's at least planting the seed in their head where it's like,
it's literally like calling 200 people all at the same time to make sure that this stuff gets done.
Yeah.
That's the way, like when I think about AI, I mean, there's the chatting and like the, the copy and pasting and like basically regurgitating information, which most people are using AI for, like rewrite my email so it sounds nicer. And it's like, sure, like that's, you know, it's helping there. But I think where the benefit is, especially with construction, is that, you know, you hear constantly how construction is just more complicated, clients' expectations are higher. It's like, well, how do you actually take some like a part of your process and create efficiency around it, especially when a lot of what we do is summarizing information and communicating it back to a client. And where trust and, you know, where trust is broken with clients is the lack of information. Where it's like if the client just has the information available to them, like at some point they're just going to be able to go on to nsbuilders.com and be like, hey, what's up with my project? And there's going to be a chat bot that says, what do you want to know? Well, where am I at with my budget? Here you go. It's like, rather than have the whole emotional, you know, tie to like, oh my God, we're over, but like it's just going to spit information right back to a client.
Right. Well, and because Resio and Adaptive are so I use Adaptive as well, and they're integrated together. And so for us now, we're able to track like down to the penny where all of our money is going, or if anyone doesn't remember a receipt, and then it automatically gets tracked to the right job. And then we haven't upgraded yet to what you were referencing, Nick, but at Contractor Coalition, Reese was showing it to me and I was just like, oh my gosh, because a client can just text and say, you know, ask for an update or ask where they're at. And it automatically can call them and do all that from a client perspective too. And even while I was sitting there, like we haven't upgraded to the full AI, but we have the, you know, Adaptive and then integrated with Resio. But I just texted my bot and I just said like, where are we at today on jobs? And that's all I said. And just, it sent back a paragraph and bullet pointed, like we're 30% done with this job. You build X amount, you have this amount lingering, but everything was very factual. Like where the job.
When you say texted, like what do you mean texted? Like where did you do that? Because I think that's what
I always have a text going with Adaptive because anytime anyone from our team logs a receipt, I'll get a text that says someone logged a receipt. So in that text thread, in my Adaptive text thread.
Like it's the phone number.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I just texted my Adaptive where I get these alerts. Mm-hmm. And all I said was, where are we at today on jobs? And it texted me back immediately. And I almost thought even that text thread, it was going to say like, this is a one-way street, right? Like just give you updates.
This is a no reply.
Yeah. And it just immediately gave me where we're at on all jobs. And it even said like one job wasn't closed out. And I was like, oh my gosh, just from a...
If you did that with chat, it'd be like, that's a really great question. Asking this question is going to indicate the financial health of your business. And that's really important to know. Shut up.
Oh my God, that's good.
Outsider's perspective, it seems as though the companies and the softwares that are doing the best in this field are newer softwares who have been developing with this in mind, understanding that this is going. And I think that that's important to understand when you're picking one of these CM softwares, or when you're picking. There's so many AI companies out there, even like Paul's company, Nick Assembly, where they've been developed with open AI rather than, hey, this company was in existence, now we're going to try and tie this back to them. So I think that if somebody's looking to use a new software or sign up for one of these systems and you want the ability to be able to do this, most of these systems have been developed very recently with the idea that this is where we're headed and this is what you want to be able to tie into this. So they've been structured around that system in the first place rather than, hey, we have this system, now we're going to try and implement it in. It's almost like they were born and bred with this in mind.
You know, normally you're like, oh, this company's been around for a long time. Like I can, you know, it stood the test of time. I can trust it. And now it's like, oh, it's almost opposite. Like if they're newer, they probably are more adaptable and are on to the latest things. Whereas, ones that have been around for a while and that haven't adapted, that's probably a little bit scarier to invest in for sure.
How are you using Rezio on a daily basis with your business?
We just swapped to it, so it's still pretty new for us. But
Yeah.
now, so right now when a client comes in, our form was integrated with Dubsado, which we also love that platform, but now we just moved it so Rezio can capture the leads. And then each of our jobs, again, when you switch, you have to phase out the old jobs, start the new one, which is always a process. But so then now we have our client schedules, daily logs, also even that kind of stuff, like all of that, you can just speak to it with Claude. It's all tracked in there. Time management. So we were able to get rid of another tool that was tracking our time. And then estimates, bidding. Yeah, so all of that daily stuff. We still have Adaptive, but they all sync. And then we also have QuickBooks. But again, they all talk to one another in sync, so we're not duplicating efforts. We're still using another design platform called Material, which we really love as well. So we do pull it out, do our selections of material, and then update our pricing once all materials are finalized. But then it takes us to the end of job completion. So we've been able to eliminate 4 other tools that we were paying monthly duplicate for. And I'm just waiting for them to integrate some affiliate marketing. And
Hell yeah. Then you can retire. All right. So from like a workflow perspective, right, you're using Rezio. What's the design software you said that you're using?
Material.
And Claude and whatever else you're using. Like, what does that workflow look like? Where are you starting? And again, I know that that's a very deep, layered question, but like, again, for me, if I was like, yeah, I really want to get a software, I want a CM software, I want to be able to integrate this into my daily task for running a construction business. Like, what does the workflow look like? Are you starting in Rezio? Are you starting in Claude? Are you starting on the design end of things? Like, how do you progress through that?
Well, I would say start in Claude no matter what, and if you have any process, put your process in Claude so you can really talk through what you're currently doing. And for me, everything always comes back to money. So no matter what, I'm talking to Claude to say, where can we save money? Where can we bridge the gap? Here are some things that I'm super frustrated with at work or efficiency. And so I would do all that in Claude and talk through all the tools you currently have, and all the frustrations, dump everything in there and work with it, talk back and forth, just like it's your therapist. And then I would say determine where, because then you can say too, like, give me a game plan. And then you can say, where should I start? What should I look into? Because as we all know, it's a complicated industry and you can't just like forego all the tools you're using and just pivot into new ones. And so it'll really talk through, like, try this platform out, or, look at your top platforms, and it'll probably even tell you, like with CoConstruct, what its capabilities are. You can even say, pull all the top builder CR or the project management tools for me, price compare them, tell me about AI, how efficient are they with that? And as you know, all 3 of us have different sized businesses, different goals we're working towards. So something that works for me might not work for one of you, and vice versa. So I think it really comes down to your company and what you're trying to get towards. But I would start in Claude.
There's 2 things I want to mention there. Look, number one, I had this client a couple years ago, and he's in the software as a service space, and he has some great LinkedIn content. And he posted yesterday how software purchases now are being like primarily influenced by AI, where it's like it used to be you'd have to like decide like which program you're going to be using and do the research, or you'd have a great salesperson that would convince you to buy their software.
Yeah.
Now it's all heavily influenced by what AI is saying, and oftentimes it's like straight up suggestion, and where it's whatever the best product is for that particular client. So like that client's inputting things. the other side, you said something a couple minutes ago, but about Claude code and how you can create, like you said something about how you just created your own Sprout in your own social media scheduling thing, and there's probably people listening where it's like, why not just create my own project management software? And it's like you could do that. I want people to think about this similar to like a car, where it's like you could build your own car, but you can also just go buy one. And like, Toyota's figured it out, right? Like they build a great car. Like it just like that exists because they've done the research and iterated,
sorted out the kinks.
Millions and millions of times. Building a piece of software from code, sure, it will do certain things, but then you have to worry about security and client information and what happens when it breaks, and so there's when the more you do, sure, like you can get really close, but you are opening yourself up to like, will it pass a safety test? Like, you input a client's information, like what happens there? How are you protecting that information?
It's just like every person out there that goes, I could build my own house, but I don't have time. You're like,
yeah, well, that's, I mean, I probably should have went with the house example. You're right.
Sure you could. Perfect.
When we were on vacation, there was somebody talking about AI and writing code, and how while they're writing code, and some of the AI platforms now hallucinates, and it'll basically like think that it's doing something right and wipe out like an entire system that's already been developed. And I was like, oh God, that's something that scares me so much, where it's like it basically convinces itself that this is what they wanted me to do. So even having protections in to prevent that from happening, where it's not like I just wiped out in your entire system and started over. Oh, sorry, you needed that.
The brain dump, I think, is like the thing that everyone, like, that's, I think, the best piece of advice that you can have getting into this is when you want to create something or do something or figure something out, like the ability to talk to someone, like, as you said, Morgan, a therapist, like working through something, it helps you become more actionable. And I think, even for me, like yesterday, I was just I just had a Monday, and I'm like, all right, I was sitting at my desk, my face in my hands, and I'm like, what do I prioritize right now? I've tried to write this out. I don't like everything seems important. This seems like it's on fire. And I just sat down and I was like, all right, I'm just going to word vomit what's on my mind, and then ask Claude to help me like prioritize this. And it's, and it comes back. It's like, all right, these seem to be important. Let's dig into these. And then by the end of it, I'm like, okay, I actually realize that half the shit I'm thinking about actually doesn't matter right now. It's completely emotional, and I'm letting that take over my brain. And these are the things that are more important. I think, I think that goes back to, if you don't know, ask. And it's like, hey, like, I run a construction business. I do $1 million a year. I know I should be using AI. What could I be using AI for? And it's going to come back and be like, okay, well, what's your goal? Like, are you trying to make more money? Are you trying to do more work? Are you trying to stay small? There's just so much that can be optimized. And I think even myself, I'm guilty in the sense that I will sometimes spend too much time optimizing the thing that doesn't matter. Where it's like, I wanted to really automate a process in my business that frankly doesn't take a lot of time anyway. So it's like, why am I spending all this time trying to automate, the way a lead comes in, when it's like, it's not like I'm getting hundreds of phone calls a day. It's like fielding 1 or 2 phone calls a day is, totally obtainable. I'd rather leverage something else that does take hours or days of work.
How much, Morgan, do you think that from the brain dumping perspective and just settling some of your thoughts, these platforms have helped you?
Oh my gosh, so much.
So, like, I mean this in the best way possible, but like, you and Nick have a lot swirling, like, I have a lot swirling around in my head, but it's normally just like negative shit and just like you're gonna die, this is gonna screw up, like anxiety. And like you and Nick are just like, there's fireworks of ideas going off in your head all day long that don't stop.
Yeah.
And like for years of knowing you and Nick, it was like, how do we wrangle this in and just focus on a couple of things? And sitting here having this conversation with you, I'm like, damn, she's like wrangling it all in. And it like the thoughts are very linear now. The conversation's very linear. And it's not just like, oh, something shiny went by, let's go down here. Or even circling back to something that we just talked about that we didn't stop talking about. Like, it seems as though something has changed substantially.
I think it's like having the guardrails up. Like when there is a shiny object, you go for it. And then for me, it's like, no. That has nothing to do with what you're trying to do.
Right. Yes. And Nick and I both have, I feel like I can say I have bigger problems, but I'm like, it's become truly my therapist that I talk to. And I'm like, even when I'm driving in my car, I always say when I'm driving or if I'm showering, like that's when all these ideas just are like, boing, boing, boing. And so just being able to have my phone accessible to talk to it and to at least like empty the chaos for a while. Because a lot of times, like you're saying, I'm, female and a lot more emotional about things too. And so just to be able to get it off my brain and for my bot to say like, the thing that you hate the most, right? They're like, that's valid feelings, Morgan, but you don't need to think about that right now. Like, and then it probably goes and deletes it, right? But at
perfectly normal to feel this way.
Yeah. Get it out and not think about it. And then it reminds me, like, it'll bring up an idea that I thought about or that I talked to it about months ago. And it will say, remember this, like, now this is a perfect time to circle back or to bring it into this next idea you have. So it really does help, like, all the mental, I even say this to our team where I'm like, the stuff that's going on in our brain, like, think about how many hours in a day it's just all this made up stuff, or you're thinking about what if, or,
Do you sleep? Oh, no, I'm being serious. Like, because that's the type of stuff when I wake, like if I wake up and the brain starts, then I can't fall back to sleep.
Yeah. I did go to bed last night at 8:30. I was like, Jamie, you got the kids. I'm going to bed. I got an early podcast at 5 a.m. But then at 3 o'clock, I woke up and I was like, where's the microphone? Which I couldn't find the cord.
Yeah.
I got the microphone. I just couldn't find the cord.
But, and like, I've never really given it that much thought, but I think a lot of times it can be helpful for that, just quelling some of that anxiety where you have a million things going on. And it's like, well, I'm going to write a list out because that helps me feel better about what needs to happen. And then, like Nick's saying, being able to prioritize that and not just having that constant like energy suck in your head of I need this, I need that, what about this? And I've been feeling a little bit like that lately, just with everything in life coming to fruition, our own build that I'm starting and other jobs and podcasts and social and everything going on. It's feeling more overwhelming than it typically does. And it's like, okay, well, I wake up now and even if it's in the middle of the night, and I have to pee, and I'm like, I immediately start thinking about everything that has to happen, and I'm like, oh no, this isn't good,
Tyler, and you can say, I just woke up in the middle of the night. Here's all the things I'm thinking about.
Yeah. And then my wife's like, who are you talking to in the bathroom right now? What are you doing? Go to sleep, psycho.
It's Atlas. Leave me alone.
All right. One more thing that I kind of want to know from you from a more specific, just so I can wrap my head around how all of this stuff works. Obviously high level. But something as simple as like onboarding a new client into your business, what does that process look like for you now versus what it potentially used to before you had these tools at hand?
This is a good one. So, I need to bring this up to Resio actually. When a client comes in, I immediately, like, it's running through Claude, because I'm like, I want to know, as we all know, like, clients can.
So that's the first move is Claude.
Yes. And so I'm like, dig up all the information you can on this like new lead. Whether that's, I mean, the biggest thing I'm looking for, honestly, is like if they've left other reviews out there, because I want to know about this person's character. I've been putting there, a big thing for us is like, are they in a relationship? Are they in a healthy relationship? When we go to job sites, like I am looking at how they treat their partner, if their partner is present. Because I just know if they're talking to one another disrespectfully, like that, it's going to not be a great relationship for us. And so I'm digging up, like, have they been divorced? Are they remarried? Like, we like working, we talked about this at Coalition, but like entrepreneurs love working with them because they understand what it's like to run a business. They know me and Jamie aren't always going to be on the job site. That's not their expectation. Also, we've looked at like, I want to work with working moms too, so they understand what I'm doing and going through, and they treat us like humans. We like when they have kids too, because they understand the family dynamic. And Jamie and I have 3 young kids, and that we try to put them first. And so the first thing I'm doing is I'm like, dig up all the dirt you can on these clients and tell us if they're good humans or not, or if they're going to ruin our life. Like I quite literally type that in there. Will they ruin our life? Have they been in lawsuits? And if any red flags come up, we just pass on it immediately. I don't even entertain like going out there, having a conversation, nothing, because I'm just like, it's not worth our time or energy.
Okay, so this client's like a fit for you. What's the next step?
So the next step is we do a Zoom call. Kayla actually does that. So she'll jump on the call, get to know them. We also have a few questionnaires that it was Dubsado. Now again, we just moved, but Dubsado would generate automatic. So then we'd ask more about the project, get photos. That was another thing. Like if they didn't even know how to upload photos, we normally wouldn't move forward because we're like, we want someone that can understand technology. And then Kayla will do a Zoom, just get feelers, again, just making sure they're a good fit. And then if we feel good about it, again, we could probably price it out right then and there without even going to the job site. We all know this, but we'll then go out to the job site, talk through the project with them, and then put some pricing, rough estimate. But we always say, like, this is not what your bid would be. We need to do design selections to figure out exactly what you want. And then we normally do a pre-con / design with contingency saying we'll go into construction. And then
building the budget in Resio.
Correct. Yep. Estimate and budget. Before Resio, we would do the budget and estimate in Material. We also used Builder Trend before, but we always did the budget actually in Material because then it would coordinate right with selections.
So then are there aspects of AI that are helping you within Resio to develop that budget or economize that process?
So they have templates. So we set it up once. The one thing I really do like about it too, so whereas we were building them in Material before, it kind of did it in all, like whatever you'd click on first, it put the bid together like that.
Yeah.
Now Resio, it does everything in order. You can also ask Mason, like, am I missing anything? Or
is that with regard to your plan, the scope that you developed, all of those things?
Correct. Yes.
So whatever information it has.
Yep. And I will say with that, because Claude knows, like, once a client does move forward, then it's like, now we're starting the project. And I'm talking to Claude about anything client related. I'm talking to Claude about our team. I have different projects, if you will, about each person on our team when I need to talk through things or vent or do reviews or anything like that. So like my bots and my agents know everything from the start, right? When a lead comes in down to when we're working through the project.
So Claude knows what Resio's doing and Resio knows what Claude's doing?
Claude knows what Resio's doing.
Okay.
Resio doesn't know what Claude's doing. Yeah. And Resio and Adaptive, which is all financials, right? And Claude knows like, hey, in that project you guys just finished yesterday or last week or whatever, like you forgot X, Y, and Z, or you messed up on this and took a hit for this amount. Like, think about this in your next project, you know?
So how is that presenting itself to you? Or is it just like, is that conversation popping up when you open Claude, or is that like, how are you finding that information?
Because Claude knows.
But so is it just
It's
like
like a
I
brain.
open up Claude one day and Claude's just like, yo, next time you put together an estimate, don't forget this because you screwed that up last time?
Yes. Yeah. And I have like in my chat, like I have one that where I just dump everything. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'll say, hey, new thought, and I'll start talking to it again. New thought, start talking to it. Or if I have a different conversation going, I can tell my coworker, like, remember when I was talking about this? Go find that information.
Yeah.
And it will go find it.
Or you could be like, I'm building this new budget for this job. What are the things that I've been missing on previous jobs?
Yep. Or like even not long ago, like Topher got our project manager, he left his keys unlocked and someone came and took his wallet out of the truck or like left the door unlocked, whatever. And then he took off with the police and then left the tools out, right? Like left the tools outside and then it ended up raining. I know.
Oh my God.
And
So we got rid of Topher and replaced him with Claude.
no, but granted, it wasn't like a lot of tools, but it was still, you know, like $500 worth of. And so like that really pissed me off. And it wasn't even that big of a deal, but I was just like, come back to the job. Like, why didn't, like that just got stolen, whatever. But like even that, it remembered. So it, on another bid I was putting together, it just said, you know, like, just think about different situations like this. And granted, I wouldn't line item that into a new estimate.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I love that it just pulled that just to make sure that we had enough cushion for just little mishaps because my bot was like, that really pissed you off.
Yeah. I mean, it's true though. And like, realistically, like that's life, that's business, that's part of owning a business. Stuff like that does happen, and you could argue, yeah, like that's avoidable, but sometimes it just isn't. And if you have a business that it in some way, shape, or form is going to be inevitable, and I think that should be somehow built into the cost of you doing business.
I think more like Morgan, what I think you're getting at is when you are feeding it all this information and you're doing it kind of like say you're doing a small renovation project, you know, anyone that's listening, and you basically say, all right, you know, you take them through the beginning process. Here's my estimate, whether you're connected to Resio or not, but here's my estimate. And then as the project progresses, like constantly feed it all the information, or you get to the end and like, here's the folder with every cost that I had. Give me a cost analysis compared to my estimate. But it will prompt you, be like, hey, why did your framing number go over? Oh, I misestimated, or like material went up. And you're basically building this database where the more you feed it, the more information it has. And I think as builders, we have so much information, but pre-construction and estimating still tend to be like a crutch for us that either takes a really long time or we do a bad job at it. And oftentimes it's because we rush it. But for us, like we've identified that as our biggest opportunity with pre-con is that if we can fast track the pre-construction side of our business by basically building a database of information, then we can communicate to a client faster and really detailed information. Like anytime we put together a proposal, clients are like, this is incredibly detailed. Thank you so much. Like, okay. And most of that is done because I'm stripping information out of other jobs manually, and to use AI like that, it literally is done in a fifth of the time. I can do a full $6 million proposal based on historic data with AI right now in 8 hours, which still is a ton of manual work. I could probably cut that down to 4 hours if I continue to build just a database of information. And the argument that comes up all the time is like, yeah, but every house is custom. I totally agree with that. But at the end of the day, like you're still figuring out what something costs. and you're doing that with some sort of calculation, whether it's custom or whether it's a track home, like there's a calculation that you're making. Like my electrician is like, oh, I don't calculate by, devices. It's like, okay, but what are you Well, I calculate like how much time it takes me plus the material. It's like, okay, how are you determining how much time it takes you? It's like, well, a guy can only run this many feet of wire at a time. I'm like, right. So what I'm getting at is if you break this down to the item that you're calculating, you can then take that and then build that onto literally any home or any project. You just need to peel that layer back far enough. And then of course you would build in some sort of contingency. And then the more you do it, the more you realize, man, like I don't have to spend 80 hours estimating. I can get within 5% contingency because I've given Claude, for example, the exact calculation that I make on my projects, and it's spitting this information. I have a plumber that does it. Like I ask him questions, he's like, here's a number, here's a scope. He's like, I love ChatGPT. And I'm like, I can tell because you're copying and pasting it. But I'm like, the fact that you're just running your business that way and you're like a top guy in that field, like I love that. Because you're like, it means that you're spending the time and finding efficiencies.
And wanting to be better. Because I was going to say, even like I'll tell homeowners if they're looking at our bid and comparing it to others, I'm like, run it through AI so that you can see. Because we had one the other day and a homeowner was like, you were significantly higher than another contractor. And I was just kind of like, then they're missing something. Because I'm like, how are we significantly higher? And so I was like, run it through AI just to do some comparison. And we ended up seeing the other bid. And I was just like, for us, we're trying to, better the industry. And it's like, I was almost embarrassed that a bid like that even went out, like for our industry, for a contractor, because I was like, what is this? Like, you're missing so much information. I'm like, no wonder why we have a bad rap. I'm like, this homeowner has no clue what this even is. It's just like gibberish on a paper. And so, yeah, I'm just like, the more as contractors, we can use this to better our communication and better our pricing and actually explain to homeowners what they're getting. It's just going to help one another out too.
What's significantly? What are we talking here?
It was like almost $100,000 different.
And what was the total job cost?
250.
Oh yeah, you are significant.
I know. That's what I was like. Man, I'm like, clearly something's missing.
Yeah,
that's like
that is. I would be significant. They weren't wrong.
Yeah, and obviously, when it came back, right? It's like no selections are hardly even in there. I'm like, talking about a kitchen remodel, and I'm like, are they even putting?
They just excluded stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
I shared this.
In Nick's case, they left out like a powder room for the $100,000, $150,000.
Well, I shared this in Denver, but one of the first times, we got asked to bid a project a year ago, and it was like 6 builders bidding it, and I was like, this is foolish, but it was a cool project, cool architect, and it was a project that we wanted, like in the neighborhood we wanted. So I actually spent probably 2 days, but at the time it was ChatGPT, and I used AI to estimate the whole project. And I didn't just plug in all the information, say estimate this. I basically went division by division. So I was like, all right, we're going to work on division 2, outline all the demo scope, and it would outline it like, all right, now break that down by floor. And I just basically I went through the process as if I was doing it with like an assistant PM sitting next to me. And we submitted our proposal, and we were $6 million. And we were, out of all 6 of us, I was like number 4 in most expensive. So, and number 5 and 6 were like, I guess they were obnoxiously more expensive, but I think neither one of them wanted the job. So we were exactly where we wanted to be. And the client was like, this is the most detailed proposal I've ever seen. And like, we're only at schematic design right now. And I was like, yeah, I just wanted to be really specific in terms of what we were making allowances for and what we were assuming. And to your point that you just made, they end up going with another builder. And I said, "Oh, what was the deciding factor?" And they're like, "Well, they were significantly less." And I was like, "Oh, well, we were $6 million. Like, what were they?" And he was like, "He said he could do it for $2.5 million." And I was like, "Okay,
Yeah, that's also significant.
good luck." I was like, "Are you serious?" Like my proposal literally tells you what color screws I assumed for the hinges, and you're
Oh my gosh.
like, you think
Don't
some
you
guy's
always
going to do it
feel
for
like
$3.5 million less than us?
we just did like right before Chicago for Coalition, and we were pre-con, we were supposed to start demo, and it was about a $350,000 job for us, which is big for us. And we came back for Coalition because we had some red flags, and then we ended up walking away from it after just being with one another. And just, I was like, the way we've been treated, I'm like, we got to walk from this job. But they ended up going, with someone else, and they made it a point to tell us, like, that person was within their scope budget, like lower, because yeah, they wanted like real hardwood doors, and we're like, you do not need that in like
Yeah,
this. Yeah.
makes no sense.
Yeah, it makes zero sense. But anyway, went with a different contractor, and I couldn't help but like feel bad for that contractor, because I was just like, and to your point too, with this $2 million one, it's almost like, oh, you're gonna like, and it was right before Christmas, all I could think about was like, their Christmas is gonna be ruined. I'm like, the next 6 months of your life, like these clients are just gonna like eat you alive because you went lower, right? And I'm just like, do you like, come on, wake up, contractors too. Like that $2 million one, I'm like, who's just about to have his next 2 years of ruin?
I think we're getting close from the client education side, because, I mean, I've shared this on the podcast and the summit. We had two recent projects. Both of them we priced at $5 million, and then we had like separate conversations that someone else came in and they were closer to $4 million, and one of them ended up moving forward with the $4 million price. And I called the architect and I was like, "Listen, like, this project's gonna be $5 million, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, I just want to be very clear. I'm getting penalized for being honest up front, and the other builder's lying about it, knowing that it will eventually cost $5 million, and we're like telling the client to move forward that way." Where it's like, it's really hard for me to continue to want to be honest when everyone else just lies and gets the work, and then eventually, and the crazy thing is, like, a lot of those like, even from the client's perspective, the client doesn't end up caring that it's $5 million. It's like, just tell me it's going to be 4 and I'll deal with $1 million delta over the course of the next 18 months.
Yeah, once you're in, it's like, got to figure it out at this point.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's like, sure, but I told you what it was when it was.
Knowing you a lot closer the last few years, and then seeing a lot what you're doing online, at the summits, and what you discuss and what you talk about and what you teach, I think there's so much value for our listenership, and just contractors in general, especially with how outdated so many of our processes are. I think it'd be really cool to be able to dig into something more specifically, like pick one topic and be like, let's walk through how you're using this to solve this problem. I think that'd be a really cool conversation that we should do in the future. I think that this conversation today really was to be able to dumb it down enough so somebody like myself or somebody who's not super tech savvy can get a better idea of what the capabilities are, to possibly quell some of the anxiety around, hey, is this going to take over what we're doing? Are we going to lose our jobs? What's going to happen with the future of AI? Because I think that there's a lot of people who fear for that as well, and realistically just shine some light on the fact that this can create a lot of efficiencies within your business and set you apart within your business. And if you're not using it, that you really should hop on the train and begin to implement it in some way, shape, or form into your business.
Yeah. I was going to say, the stat is something like 8 out of 10 contractors go out of business because they don't understand the business perspective. It might even be more than that. So to me, I'm like, just for that simple thing alone, just helping on the business side, like utilizing AI on the business side is so you're not that stat, because that's really high.
For sure, yeah. Just get some of your questions answered as well. Like I've used it all the time where I have something going on or I'm trying to figure out, what my revenue looks like versus my overhead and all that, and just being able to dump that in and be like, help me figure out this formula and why these numbers look like this and what percentage it needs to be is very helpful for me, where it's not like I have to go pull open a book or a website and look up what the formula is and then I can just say, here are all my numbers, which it streamlines that process and makes it very simple. But I would love to be able to see what you're doing. Like you have full presentations on the social end and how you're using these systems and software to schedule posts and create more content and write blog posts for you, which I think from a marketing perspective would be very beneficial to a lot of our listeners. So we're going to have to do that at some point as well. Figure out one topic to focus on and then maybe do like a live walkthrough that we could pull some clips from. Sweet. Well, we appreciate you getting up at the ass crack of dawn with only one functioning eye and recording a podcast with us, especially after seeing us last week. Like you'd be like, all right, I've had my fill.
I know. And we have a contractor coalition meeting today too, I think.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. I think it's a very insightful conversation for people.
You guys are so great.
Thank you.
Thank you.